I showed you all how to make this regular turban cap in my last video. So in today's video, we are going to be learning how to make that same type of turban cap with lining. I promised you all to show you how to make this particular type of turban cap, and this is me fulfilling my promise. So if you've been interested in knowing the process of making a turban cap with lining, please be sure to watch this video to the end. Also, please don't forget to give this video a big fat thumbs up if you enjoyed watching, which I'm sure you would by the time you get to the end of this video. Also, be sure to subscribe if you're yet to subscribe, and feel free to share this tutorial with anybody that you think would love this type of content. So now that I've said all that, let's get straight into today's tutorial. Let's go. Alright guys, without wasting too much of your time, we are going to be using two strips of fabric that are 30 inches long by 2 inches. So they are 2 inches wide and 30 inches long. We are also going to be using this piece of fabric, one satin fabric and one Ankara fabric. I'm using a doll face satin for the purpose of this tutorial. Feel free to use any type of satin that you like, and the dimension of those two fabrics were linked previously, so feel free to refer to that measurement when making your own turban cap. And remember that this is my own measurement. Your own measurements might be different from mine, so please bear that in mind. So what I'm doing now is I'm sewing these two strips of fabric that are going to serve as the band of my turban together, and I'm joining it together by half of an inch. And I'm also going to go ahead now to cut out my elastic that is going to help give us, you know, that elastic feel like we did in the last video. Exactly. So we're going to repeat that process in this clip. We are going to measure 10 or 11 inches from each side, just like we did in the last tutorial. I'll advise that you go ahead to watch my last video on how to make a turban cap, so you basically understand everything I'm doing. So what I'm doing now is, after piping my band and, you know, making it into a form of elastic casing, I'm just measuring 11 inches at the two edges, and then now I'm going to pass my elastic through to give me that elastic kind of feel at the center of my band. Like I said earlier, please feel free to check out my last video so you understand everything that we're doing basically in today's tutorial. So like we did in the last video, I'm going to pass my elastic through, secure it at the center, and then pass it all the way out, and then adjust and make sure that my elastic ends up at the center of our band. So once that is done, we're going to move on to the next bit in this particular tutorial. Alright guys, so now that I've pulled out the safety pin that I used to pass my elastic, all I'm doing here is just filling my elastic and making sure that it doesn't, you know, exceed that point that I marked on my fabric. And now that that is done, I'm just securing it in place with my safety pin, and then I'm going to go ahead to just sew it down just like we did in the last tutorial. Just make your stitches there really, you know, precise and firm, such that you don't lose your elastic. And this is what we have now. So my band for my turban cap is ready. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to basically like sandwich my band in between my Ankara fabric and my satin fabric. So when I say sandwich, I'm just putting the band in between. I don't know how to explain it, but just watch me and what I'm doing. So what I'm doing now is just using my pin to secure that my band in place, and once that is done, I'm going to sew it onto the two pieces of fabric that I sandwiched that band in. I'm going to sew it down on half of an inch. And before I go ahead to sew, I want to make sure that I'm looking at my, you know, placement to be sure that it's perfect before going ahead to sew. You don't want to just jump up and go to your sewing machine and then sew and realize that you made a mistake in the placement. So make sure that your placement is right and then go ahead to sew. And this is what we have now. I've already sewn my band in place, and then what I'm doing here is just cutting off the excess pieces at the sides, especially, you know, with that my band, it was sticking out at both sides, so I just cut it off to just make everything look proper. So the next thing I'm going to do now is flip my turban inside out, and then we are going to move on to create that curved edge effect that we did in the last tutorial. You remember what we did there, where we basically kind of gave the edge of our turban a curve just to make it look really nice at the back. Exactly. So that's exactly what I'm going to do here. And for the purpose of this tutorial, I'm going to be making use of my armhole curve to just create that curved effect. Feel free to use any curved item that you have around you. Really, I just, you know, improvised by using my armhole curve, and once that was done, I just cut off that, you know, curved edge, and then I went ahead to move on to gather my turban just like I did in the last tutorial. This tutorial is very similar to the last one. The only difference, like I said earlier, is the use of lining, because I know that some people might prefer, you know, using lining on their own turban cap, because the one without lining just feels very light. And I know, just for the sake of, quality assurance and all of that, you want your client to feel like they're using something that is really, really quality, right? So that's why I'm showing you how to make the not so, you know, that one too is equally good. I shouldn't say it's not good, but this one is more lush and more, presentable in my opinion. It all depends on you as a service provider, right? Depending on what your deal is with your clients and what your clients request for, basically. So like I said earlier, I deviated a little bit. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to gather my turban base all around, just like we did in the last video, and all that entails is just doing some running stitches all around my turban up until, from ear to ear, basically from one edge of the turban cap to the other edge of the turban cap. And this is what we have here. I've already gone ahead to gather it, and what I'm going to do now is just sew these points down to secure my gathers in place. And once that is done, we are going to be, basically at the end of this tutorial. Another thing that I did differently that I didn't necessarily film in this particular video is a part where I went ahead to create some running stitches just at the back. So the part that is going to sit on my head at the back, I created some running stitches, and that's what you guys can see peeping through inside this my fabric. This part is optional, it all depends on you, but I feel like it looked really, really nice as well. So feel free to incorporate that into your own turban base if it's something that you're interested in. So yeah guys, we are at the end of this tutorial. If you enjoyed this very short, straight to the point video, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up. I really, really appreciate that big fat thumbs up. It really, really helps my channel a long way. And yeah guys, also share this video with anybody that you think would love something like this, and subscribe if you're yet to. I can't wait to see you in my next one. Bye.